Welcome to True Crime Threads. Today we explore a tragic affair that shattered lives in Dubai. Elliot Crawford, a successful 42-year-old businessman, had it all: a flourishing career, a luxurious home in London, and a devoted wife, Camilla. To outsiders, Elliot's life appeared picture perfect, a model of success and stability. But beneath the surface, his reality was far more complicated. He was trapped in a marriage that had grown stale, burdened by expectations he felt he could no longer meet. His frequent business trips to Dubai offered him a welcome escape, a chance to break free from the monotony of his domestic life. For Camilla, these trips were just a necessary part of Elliot's thriving career in international trade. She trusted him implicitly, believing he was working tirelessly to ensure their future. But for Elliot, each trip to Dubai represented a double-edged sword, an opportunity to momentarily forget the constraints of his home life, but also a gateway to the temptation that would eventually unravel everything. It was during one of these trips that Elliot's life took an irrevocable turn. On a warm, breezy evening, he attended a networking event at a high-end hotel. Among the sea of professionals, one woman caught his attention like no other. Zara Khan, a 24-year-old marketing professional, exuded confidence and charm. Her radiant smile and vibrant energy stood out in the crowd, and Elliot found himself drawn to her like a moth to a flame. Their conversation started innocently enough, a discussion about work, shared interests, and Dubai's vibrant culture. But as the night wore on, the connection between them deepened. Elliot felt invigorated in Zara's presence, captivated by her youthful optimism and ambition. She was everything his current life lacked, and the pull he felt toward her was undeniable. What began as a friendly exchange quickly escalated. Over the course of several weeks, Elliot and Zara began spending more time together. Private dinners turned into late-night confessions, and before long, Elliot had plunged headfirst into an affair. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive, as though Zara had reignited a spark he hadn't realized he had lost. Back in London, Camilla remained oblivious to Elliot's newfound passion. His long absences and vague explanations of extended meetings didn't seem unusual to her. She continued to believe in the life they had built together, unaware that Elliot was living a double life. As the affair deepened, Elliot became increasingly reckless. He justified his actions to himself, convincing himself that he could juggle both worlds without consequence. Little did he know, his choices were setting the stage for a tragedy that would shatter lives and expose the fragility of his carefully crafted facade. Elliot's life had become a delicate balancing act, one he thought he could master indefinitely. In London, he played the part of the devoted husband, maintaining the routines and gestures Camilla had come to expect. At the same time, his secret life in Dubai with Zara grew increasingly intense, pulling him further into a dangerous web of lies. He convinced himself he was in control, confident he could manage the demands of both worlds without them colliding. The affair consumed him. Zara's presence filled a void Elliot hadn't even realized existed. She was vibrant and full of dreams, a stark contrast to the predictable life he had built with Camilla. Her youthful energy made him feel alive in a way he hadn't felt in years. But with every stolen moment he spent with Zara, the risks grew higher, and Elliot became more reckless. In Dubai, Elliot showered Zara with expensive gifts, lavish dinners, and promises of a future that he knew he could never deliver. She was enamored by his charm and generosity, believing his stories about being single and focused on building a life of his own. To Zara, Elliot was the man she had always dreamed of, someone who saw her potential and made her feel special. She began to fall deeply in love, picturing a life together that was as glittering as the city they shared. Back in London, Camilla started noticing subtle changes in Elliot's behavior. He seemed distracted, his attention divided during their conversations. While he had always been meticulous about planning their lives, he now seemed forgetful and distant. When she questioned him, Elliot dismissed her concerns, blaming the pressures of work and the long hours his business demanded. To maintain the facade, Elliot took extra care to cover his tracks. He created elaborate excuses for his extended trips to Dubai, inventing meetings and contracts that didn't exist. He even set up a separate bank account to fund his double life, using it to cover his expenses with Zara. Despite his efforts, cracks in his story began to show. Zara, meanwhile, remained blissfully unaware of the truth. She had no reason to doubt Elliot's claims, especially when he went to such lengths to make her feel secure in their relationship. She began to confide in her friends about her plans for a future with Elliot, imagining a life where they could finally be together without constraints. What Elliot didn't realize was that his growing obsession with Zara was clouding his judgment. He believed he had mastered the art of deception, but every lie he told, every detail he overlooked, brought him closer to the brink of disaster. His illusion of control was beginning to crumble, and the consequences of his actions would soon become impossible to ignore. The fragile structure of Elliot's double life began to show signs of collapse, though he remained blind to the inevitable fallout. His wife, Camila, had grown increasingly suspicious of the man she thought she knew. The subtle shifts in his demeanor, the unexplained financial transactions, and the vague explanations for his extended trips to Dubai all painted a troubling picture. Despite her efforts to confront him directly, Elliot deflected her questions with practiced ease, leaving her with no choice but to take matters into her own hands. Determined to uncover the truth, Camila hired a private investigator. The investigator, experienced in such cases, quickly uncovered a trail of evidence pointing to Elliot's infidelity. Surveillance photos of him dining with Zara, entering luxury hotels, and withdrawing large sums of cash from unfamiliar accounts confirmed what Camila feared most. It wasn't just an affair, it was a full-fledged double life. The betrayal left Camila shattered, but she knew she had to confront him with concrete proof to shatter the lies he had carefully constructed. Meanwhile, in Dubai, Zara was experiencing her own unraveling. She adored Elliot and had started to believe in a future with him. But her blissful ignorance was shattered one evening when she stumbled upon a business card tucked into his wallet. The card bore the title Elliot Crawford, husband and father for Zara. The discovery was like a bolt of lightning, electrifying her with disbelief and anger. The man she thought she loved had built their relationship on a foundation of lies. In the days that followed, Zara's emotions spiraled between heartbreak and fury. She began piecing together inconsistencies in Elliot's stories. Moments she had previously dismissed as minor quirks now seemed deliberate and sinister. Zara's trust in him was gone, replaced by a simmering desire to confront him and expose his betrayal. Unaware of the storms gathering around him, Elliot continued his charade. He meticulously planned a weekend getaway with Zara, hoping to keep her pacified while he figured out a way to sustain his deceit. He didn't realize that both Camila and Zara were closing in, their paths set on a collision course that would spell the end of his double life. The private investigator provided Camila with the final pieces of evidence she needed: intimate photos of Elliot and Zara, timestamps that proved his lies, and financial records connecting him to Zara's lavish lifestyle. Camila steeled herself for the confrontation that would soon take place, her heartbreak eclipsed by a determination to make Elliot face the consequences of his betrayal. Zara, too, was ready to confront Elliot, her mind racing with the possibilities of how he would react. Each woman believed they were on the brink of reclaiming control, but neither could foresee the tragedy that lay ahead. The confrontation unfolded during what Elliot had planned as a romantic weekend getaway in a private villa on the outskirts of Dubai. He had hoped the serene setting and luxurious accommodations would serve as a distraction for Zara, buying him time to maintain the facade of their relationship. Unbeknownst to him, Zara had no intention of letting their time together pass without addressing the devastating discovery she had made. The atmosphere in the villa, which should have been one of tranquility, was thick with tension. Zara could no longer contain the turmoil of her emotions. As the evening progressed, she confronted Elliot with the business card she had found. Her voice trembled with a mixture of heartbreak and anger as she demanded to know the truth. Elliot, caught off guard, scrambled to defend himself. He spun a series of panicked explanations, each more implausible than the last, but Zara was no longer the trusting woman who had fallen for his charm. She saw through his lies, and the more he spoke, the clearer it became that he was trying to manipulate her. The argument escalated quickly. Zara, feeling humiliated and betrayed, threatened to expose everything: his lies, his affair, and the life he had built on deceit. She vowed to contact his wife and reveal the truth. For the first time, Elliot felt the weight of his carefully constructed double life crumbling under the force of Zara's anger. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Elliot tried to calm Zara down. But his panic only fueled her fury. She accused him of using her, of playing with her emotions while he enjoyed the safety of his marriage back in London. The verbal confrontation soon spiraled into a physical altercation as Zara pushed past him toward the balcony, where she shouted her threats into the night air. In a moment of desperation, Elliot grabbed her arm, pleading with her to reconsider. But the combination of her resistance and his panicked grip led to tragedy. Zara lost her balance, her feet slipping on the slick tiles of the balcony floor. She toppled over the railing, plummeting onto the rocky terrain below. For a moment, everything stood still. Elliot stared down in horror at Zara's motionless body, the reality of what had just happened crashing over him like a tidal wave. He panicked, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. Instead of calling for help, he convinced himself that staging the scene as an accident was his only option. As he clumsily rearranged evidence, erasing the obvious signs of their altercation, Elliot made critical mistakes. His decisions, driven by fear and desperation, would only serve to incriminate him further. The tragedy that unfolded on that balcony was the beginning of the end for Elliot Crawford. Back in London, Camilla was piecing together her confrontation strategy. The evidence provided by the private investigator left no doubt about Elliot's infidelity and deceit. However, her plans were abruptly altered when she received shocking news from Dubai. Zara Khan was dead, and Elliot was involved. The details were sparse at first, but the pieces began to fall into place. Local authorities reported Zara's death as a tragic fall from a villa balcony. Initial statements from Elliot painted the incident as a freak accident during a romantic getaway. Yet Camilla's investigator uncovered a different story. A stream of financial transactions, intimate photos, and travel records tied Elliot directly to Zara, contradicting his attempts to minimize his connection to her. In Dubai, the investigation into Zara's death was gaining momentum. Police quickly identified inconsistencies in Elliot's account. Witnesses in the area mentioned hearing raised voices and a heated argument before Zara's fall. The villa staff recalled signs of tension between the couple during their stay, and forensic evidence from the scene pointed to a struggle near the balcony. Elliot's attempt to stage the scene as an accident only added to the suspicion. Camilla, reeling from the betrayal and the shocking revelation of Zara's death, decided to take action. She forwarded the evidence she had gathered to Dubai authorities, providing them with a clear picture of Elliot's double life. This included emails, text messages, and photos that established his long-term affair with Zara. Camilla's heartbreak gave way to a sense of resolve as she realized the magnitude of Elliot's actions. Elliot, now under intense scrutiny, found his carefully constructed lies unraveling at an alarming pace. Police uncovered text messages between him and Zara that painted a damning picture of their relationship leading up to her death. Bank records linked him to extravagant purchases made for Zara, and the staged elements of the crime scene became glaringly obvious during the investigation. The trial that followed captivated international attention, with media outlets delving into the salacious details of Elliot's double life. The court heard testimony from Zara's devastated family, who described her as a bright, ambitious young woman with a promising future. The prosecution highlighted Elliot's desperation to maintain his secrets, painting him as a man whose selfishness and deceit ultimately led to Zara's death. Elliot was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and obstruction of justice, receiving a 15-year sentence in a Dubai prison. His fall from grace was swift and absolute. The once respected businessman now faced a bleak future behind bars, haunted by the consequences of his actions. Zara's family channeled their grief into advocacy, creating a foundation in her memory to support women navigating complex relationships abroad. As for Camila, she began the arduous process of rebuilding her life, determined to find strength in the wreckage left behind by Elliot's betrayal.